Hi, I'm Mary Kopczynski, the CEO of Regalytics, here in front of our newest members of the Kopczynski family. Here's your update on the 25,350 regulatory alerts of the week. Hawaii State Senate is in the bill lead this week with over 900 bills. Second is Mississippi with over 400. Next week, I'm going to be attending Legal Week in New York City. So if any of you are planning on being there, let me know. I rarely go into the city anymore, so it's really a treat to see people in person. And please know, Regalytics now covers over 8,000 regulators in 50 different sectors. I have doctors who use it to get the latest diabetes research from the government, and I have Wall Street traders who are designing trading algorithms with it to generate alpha. I know many of you may be scared of regulation, in some cases rightly so, but with Regalytics, you should never be afraid of being surprised by regulation. So please, come have a demo and imagine what stress would be lifted from your shoulders if you, like me, could see where the rules were going years in advance of them going there. The regulator of the week is the U.S. Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. A nominee in the past multiple times because I find reading their alerts make the rules come to life. This is because there's typically a Republican's comment, in this case Tim Scott, and a Democrat's comment, in this case Sherrod Brown. And as you know these days, they can make a seemingly simple thing sound like the catastrophic end of the world if their constituents are lobbying them to make it sound catastrophic. So what did they talk about this week? So much. China, fentanyl from China, what to do about Chinese shell companies operating in the United States, the beneficial owner rule from FinCEN. Senator Scott introduced a bill, in fact, to delay the FinCEN rule for small businesses. Scott is also pushing for an investigation into FinCEN and Treasury based on allegations they asked banks to surveil customers' personal transactions on Zelle for search terms attempting to identify extremism. And they included things like Trump, MAGA, Dick's Sporting Goods, and Cabela's. But the topic of the week, including these senators, was definitely the Basel III Endgame proposal. So I talked about this when this came out last summer, mostly in relation to how silly I thought Endgame, because it sounded like a Marvel movie. But background, Basel is a town in Switzerland. And many years ago, the Bank of International Settlements met there and made some decisions about what we call capital requirements, which is how much money a bank should hold under its mattress for safety purposes in an emergency. First, there was Basel I. Then Basel II, then Basel 2.5, and now we're at Basel III Endgame. So this came out in the summer, and there has been an outcry this past week by federal bank regulators who have been meeting and discussing and realizing, wait a minute, this is going to be a really serious problem for American financial institutions. And of course, Republicans are along the line of less rules, we don't want it, but the Sherrod Brown camp, along with Elizabeth Warren, think they're great. I know I'm not supposed to have an opinion, but having spent the better part of my 30s working on preparing for these very capital requirements, I can say that I have been very pleased to see Wall Street weather the pandemic market shock, but also the recent Silicon Valley Credit Suisse debacle. So Basel 2.5 seems to be working just fine. The banks that did go down went down for other stupid and preventable reasons, and I don't think any amount of capital buffer would have saved them for what happened. So, what else do you need to know this week? TurboTax got busted big time for claiming to be free when a tiny fraction of its customers actually qualified for free services. Lesson from all marketers: don't bait and switch. The Federal Trade Commission is watching, and if your customers complain, they will investigate. The other trend I'm watching across the 50 states are proposed bills to ensure insurance coverage for all FDA-approved weight loss medication. So, for those of you just waiting for Wegovy and Ozempic to be more affordable, just wait a little longer. And that's it this week for Regalytics. We have the global supply chain of the world's regulatory alerts in one very easy to use place. If you need a solution for anything related to regulation, give us a call.